Good morning, everyone. It is, March 23rd, I think, 2018. Here I am at DC Clothesline. Nobody does mass shootings like governments, armed with gun control. Every time there's a mass shooting in America, advocates of centralized powers in media, politics, and government use that event as an opportunity to do two things. One, continue to ignore the most massive of mass shootings and mass murderers in human history, while they, number two, aggressively promote the core policy that made most, if not all, of those most massive of mass murders possible, namely gun control. Of course, if YouTube gets wind of such a video, I will probably have another channel shut down. Without hesitation or delay, advocates of gun control, which is another way of saying the consolidation of dangerous weapons in the hands of the most dangerous organization in all of human history, government. Now, a lot of people who say these things will, in the next breath, say there is a need to have a government. Leap into action and are out in force making the case of or for disarming the population so that the state can finally enjoy what they see as a good, proper, and necessary state monopoly on the use of force and violence through guns. In this context, some people, some simple math might help us better understand exactly what's going on here. Government plus gun control equals mass murder. Just ask some of the victims of World War II, if there are any left. And if we could go back in time and ask the Chinese or any other nation that's had these gun controls, if we asked them, they would tell us we would be fucking insane to hand over our weapons. This formula has been proven time and time again throughout human history. The 20th and the 21st centuries alone have provided both proverbial and literal mountains of bloody evidence as the unparalleled threat of disarming masses of people and leaving them under the care of a well-armed, everything managing state. When we use the term mass murder in the above formula, it's important to understand just how massive the mass part really is. We're talking tens of millions upon tens of millions of people murdered by their government. Murdered. By their government. Let that sink in. The government, the same motherfuckers who all the stupid little sheep across the world worships. Deep, at least as deep as the innumerable mass graves covering God's green earth, and filled with the unidentified bodies of men, women, and children who were brutally executed by their government for the common good, of course. In the 20th century alone, the death toll imposed by armed governments upon disarmed citizens is staggering. Staggering. And barely touched upon in most American state-managed children's education program, school. Of course, I educate my children on such things, even at the age of 6. Now, I don't do it to create nightmares in my children. I do it so they see the government for what they are. The enemy. They are your enemy. You don't believe me? Just look at the silent weapons for a quiet war document. It spells it all out. And it is a government document. They want you dead and enslaved and desperate. And this is why I highly promote insurrection in this country. And not only this country, but countries across the globe. You know, countries like Sweden, countries like Britain, France, all of them so the 20th century alone, the death toll imposed by armed governments upon disarmed citizens is staggering. I say this again because we have a whole lot of dumb motherfuckers out there begging to be disarmed. Last year, and what gun control really means, we elaborated on the simple yet profound evil of gun control this way. Let's be clear about one thing. Gun control is not about the elimination of guns. It's not about removing guns from the culture. Gun control is about the consolidation of dangerous weapons in the hands of the most dangerous, violent, disgusting entities ever. Government. And this, of course, leads us to democide, a term defined as murder by government, and more specifically, the murder of any person or people by their government, including genocide, politicide, and mass murder. Which leads us to the literal hundreds of millions of people murdered by government in the 20th century alone. Now, I bet if we took a close look at the Bible, and I'm sure many of you have, there's an occurring theme in this Bible, and that is the most tyrannical motherfuckers on the planet are always governments and their cronies. And yet people clamor to the idea of having a government. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because they are too fucking stupid. Too fucking stupid to be led by their own consciousness. Let this sink in. Hundreds of millions of people murdered by their government. Hundreds of millions. And we see this very thing, played out on a daily basis in the United States. And this is just in relatively recent times. Now, if we went back to the 19th century, we would see the very same trend, if you will. Very same trend. Truth be told, nobody wants there to be guns more than leftists. Leftists wants there to be guns. They want guns in the hands of people who will murder in the name of their ideologies. I'm not any kind of super genius here. I'm a rather stupid person. I do a lot of stupid things. Well, maybe stupid isn't the proper term for that. Some would think so, but I have done some stupid things, but a lot of these things I've done were in direct defiance of the moronic laws created to control us. It may be considered stupid because it can land my ass in jail, and has. But Somebody has to make the sacrifice. Somebody. Leftists love machine guns. They love grenades. They love tanks. They love for the state to have all these things. And why? And as I just said, to impose their ideology, to enforce their will through the corrosive power of the state upon people who are, practically speaking, incapable of resistance. That's what gun control means. So as we endure yet another tragic event in which scores have been murdered or wounded by another deranged and usually pharmaceutical-fueled monster, they say let us pray for those directly impacted by this nightmare situation, while at the same time keeping our eye on the ball where gun control is concerned, lest our children or grandchildren find themselves defenseless in a land where tools of defense and aggression have been consolidated in the hands of the state. Prayers are nice and everything, but let me be honest with you. I have not once in my entire life had a prayer answered, and that's why I don't fucking pray. Let us view this short video together.
Let's be clear about one thing. Advocates of gun control are not about the elimination of guns. They are not about removing guns from the culture. What gun control advocates are about is the consolidation of dangerous weapons in the hands of the most dangerous organization in all of human history, government. This leads us to the term democide, which means murder by government. In the 20th century alone, governments have murdered hundreds of millions of their own people, usually after disarming them for their own good. Let that sink in. Hundreds of millions of people murdered by their government. China, the Soviet Union, Socialist Germany under Hitler, North Korea. All of these governments killed millions, sometimes tens of millions, of their own people after disarming them for their own good. Google it. Educate yourself. These are facts, not feelings. These are not just numbers, they are lives. Hundreds of millions of lives lost to murderous governments. That's what gun control produces. Please vote and arm yourselves accordingly.
But what good has voting done throughout the history of time, or the history of our country? What good has it done? None. And this is why I tell you in every fucking video to kill the state. You must, or let me, kill the state and live free. You must kill the state. Must. In order to be free. Hope everyone has a great day.